Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're just going to set up a couple of chairs here for myself, Jade, Joe, and Luciana. And we thought instead of just doing another talk about ZU's work, that we'd ask Luciana Fleshman, who's a researcher, and Joe Dunn, who's also a researcher and know quite a lot about our work, to lead the conversation and put forward some questions. And then, again, leave space for you. Thank you, Aga. Leave space for you to ask your own questions as well, just before we go off for the performances this afternoon. Okay? So we're just going to set up for a second.
Should I start? Yeah? Okay. So we just start, if you could just talk a little bit about Drift and in the context of collaboration and how that works and why you felt the need to do it.
Okay, so Drift is a residency model we started doing in 2006. We did it as a way to counter this sort of workshop relationship that was going on at the time, around 2005, 2006, when we were asked to do a lot of workshops. And what you had was that there was suddenly this position of, okay, we are doing this thing, you are learning this thing for 2 hours, and that's it. So we wanted people to come in with their projects, with themselves, bring themselves to it. So Drift was a way of asking everyone to come with a proposal. So everyone in that room, whoever they were, didn't matter which discipline they came from or how much experience they had, as long as they had a project that at any moment anyone could go back to their project and come back, it certainly created a dynamic where we could step in as collaborators as well. So that's probably why, the question why. And then how it works, it varies wildly every time. But the things that tend to repeat is the prototyping within a day. So you set out a collaboration between people, often haven't worked before, often different disciplines. By the end of the day, they've created something they share with everyone else. And we keep those loops, sometimes 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., sometimes even more if we are residential somewhere. And in order to manage those collaborations, we use references from all sorts of places. Creative and non-creative arts, creative and non-creative industries, design, action learning sets, prototyping methodologies, game design, whatever will help those people find a shared language to further their creative collaboration. Yeah.
And can you talk a little about House of Healing and the different editions that had already happened, and what's going on there?
What's going on there is one Drift.
Who's that person?
One Drift. That's Jade. One Drift project in Brazil about a year ago, and that's an evening of testing of one of the artists made something with VR, and we are basically experiencing what they did before we give them some sort of response. And then House of Healing, this is another project on the same Drift where we were given a train for the day. And so we said, okay, we'll use it for the week. And we had the smoke machine and the scene of a goodbye. And half of the audience was out of the train, half in. And we staged a goodbye where, with headphones instructions, the people outside said goodbye to this person at the window. And then the person, they wrote a message of goodbye, they threw it. That's my grandma. And as they threw the message and they opened, they were instructed to rip it up and throw it back. So it was a really bad ending. And then as soon as the train got to about a few meters down, it said, okay, this departure is cancelled, and the train returned. So yeah, so really fast prototyping of things that look like surely takes months to make that. The Drift is about making sure you can do it in a day. So the train was put together in a day. That installation in an abandoned petrol station was put together in a day. All with a really kind of fast gathering of people's skills towards a kind of goal that you set up. So I think the speed of it and the way that you go, okay, let's do this now, everyone suddenly brings in something of them to generate something. So it's both result and process. The result is the end of the day, but it's such a low-risk result that it's about the process of getting there.
And House of Healing? And the different editions that you already had? What is it? And previous editions?
So, well, that's quite a complicated question. You gave me the hard one. Because the House of Healing was actually Georges' idea, but it was a long time ago. It was maybe about 5 years ago, where he was already thinking about artists being the cure for society's ills, as it were, and that instead of, it was basically a hospital, it wasn't called House of Healing at that point. We wanted to make a hospital run by artists. That was the original idea, right? But then, and that was in Brazil, so that was very much with a Brazilian focus, and it was a little bit, we wanted it to be a little bit brega. I don't know how to explain brega. Like brega is like cheesy, would you say? Cheesy, tacky, kitsch. Cheesy, tacky, kitsch. Yeah. And we wanted to do very kind of brega style of bringing together music and workshops and kind of slightly, maybe not offensive, but certainly in your face, and to deal with what was happening in Brazil. At that time, we thought that that was really bad. now we're like, fucking hell, that was like... So yeah, at that time we were really struggling with being there, and so House of Healing came out of that concept. That was the original concept. And then we then fast forward a few years, and we went to Colombia. We were invited to Colombia by the British Council, and they wanted us to work in this area, which is called La Candelaria, which I could talk about forever because it's super fascinating. It's this area, the original, how do you say, like the original capital of that area, the original hub, so very, very old, and really beautiful old architecture and old buildings, but that has become now by night a very dangerous place. In the daytime it's still quite busy with like universities and stuff like that, but in the evening it is it's a completely different thing. Everyone runs away, and then there's this sort of very active yeah, kind of, you know, what you might call criminal scene, or a lot of people on drugs and stuff like this. And we were partnering with quite a tricky festival called Barku, and they were a visual arts festival. They didn't quite get what we were doing, and it wasn't the best match. But they were really determined to get us to work there. So we started to do so we said, okay, we'll do this project House of Healing there. We found a site which was really lovely, which was amazing, which was not really an orphanage, but it was a place for children to come to visit the city. And these were often children from disadvantaged homes. And we cleared out the site and had different rooms that expressed different problematics of Colombia, which at that point as well was going through the most incredible referendum just before our referendum, actually. And that was quite a big shock, because their referendum, like our referendum, in my view, went unexpectedly the wrong way, where they had to vote for peace, and they voted against it, which is a quite remarkable idea that a country would vote against it. So that was very